So I finished Acolyte, the Acolyte. Um, and okay, so I guess the best way for me to start this is if you watched what I thought of the first half of Acolyte last time I did this, you'll remember I said me and my dad likened it to Marvel's She-Hulk. I think we were being a little hard on She-Hulk. Because look, She-Hulk, and this is actually not a bad comparison. She-Hulk, as bad as She-Hulk did get at points, I still actually overall like She-Hulk. She-Hulk has got a lot of problems in it. Dex work is not usually very good when it comes to She-Hulk, although I do have a defense for that. It's not good when it comes to her face. Everything else actually looks fine on She-Hulk, but her face, they didn't know how to render it quite right. Because they hadn't worked with Tatiana Maslany before, but they'd worked with Bruce, Mark Ruffalo many times. The writing, though, for She-Hulk, when you're a comedy, no less, was just off completely. And you had people who didn't know law writing for a law show. So, She-Hulk suffered from a lot of problems. It did. I still overall had a good time in She-Hulk, but suffered from a lot of problems. But you know what? She-Hulk had a concept and it executed the concept. Now, did it or stick the landings all the time when it came to said concept? Not all the time, but the general tone of the show and what the show is saying is like it's a procedural show, it's a lawyer show with superheroes in it. That was the general concept of the show. More or less is what you got throughout the show. Other things, breaking the fourth wall, Kevin, all that stuff, that's regardless. Acolyte has a fundamental problem. A fundamental problem. Now, before I get into that fundamental problem, which I'll bounce off it in a little bit, let me first say, right out the gate, this is the worst thing Star Wars has done. Minus, say, like the prequels, but even the prequels had a concept and they executed it. When I say this is the one, let me rephrase it. This is the worst thing they've done in TV, bar none. Because Mandalorian, even season 3, which is the weakest of the 3 seasons, is fantastic, and or is really good, or is solid at least. Most people maybe were a little dismayed with the season 3 of Mandalorian, but most people liked it. And the first 2 seasons are fantastic. Acolyte is fantastic. I like Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan I think is fine. It's not amazing. The stuff with Obi-Wan and Vader is great. The stuff with Leia and was it Reva, or whatever, the Night Sister, no one cared. Book of Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett had a problem. It was not that good. But the writing was still better than this. And I liked Ahsoka, frankly, a lot more than I liked this. Ahsoka, I at least was kind of into. And I like concepts. And if they're going with Abeloth in season 3, 2, I'm definitely here for another Ahsoka season. Because I will love Abeloth as a concept and character. But this is probably the worst thing they've done. And why is it? Well, to go back to my point, to go back to the point I just made about She-Hulk and executing an idea. This show is one big lie. The show is one big effing lie. You say we're going to look at things from the dark side perspective. We are going, and from the Sith perspective, almost basically from the Sith perspective. And let's not mince words here. You got what? 3 or 4 episodes out of an 8-episode series. At best, half the episode is about the concept of the dark side, the comparisons of the Force. It didn't get you. Episode 7 is probably the most you go into that. That's probably it. So right out the gate, it's a fundamental lie in terms of the description of this show. It really is. Like, Jedi finding a murder mystery, fine. But saying that you're looking at things from the dark side perspective, here and there, but not in enough depth that it works as from what you described for your concept. Beyond that, though, the choices in the story and the writing are terrible. Again, when we were halfway through on episode 4, I was like, I'm not hating it, but it is starting to be like, and episode 3 is arguably one of the worst episodes they did. Although, quite frankly, I might argue episode 7 was the worst one they did. The retelling of everything. You know what? I'm even going to go so far. Yeah, I will agree with what I just said. Episode 7 was the worst episode of this series, bar none. And I'll talk about that when we go a bit more in depth and some of the on all the issues I have here. But the problem is this writing. I have written stories before. Now, let me first. I've written papers for school and all that, but I've written a story for my friends, a fanfic for my friends. And it was a big. I pretty much wrote a book. And again, just to recap, you're never going to see that. That's for personal viewing and all that for my friends. That's all. I only did it for my friends. But point being, I wrote it. And look, I'm no thespian writer. I'm no Shakespeare. But I still like. I occasionally reread the story because it's just a fun story. I like to rereading. But I reread it, and I keep seeing things I could have improved on. But overall, I'm reading this, and I'm comparing it to what we saw in the show. I'm like, I can write better than this show. And if me, a nobody on YouTube, okay, let me rephrase that. Because I actually don't like it when people call themselves nobodies. This very relatively small YouTuber on YouTube who doesn't write for a living or anything like that, who writes for fun, can write a better show than this. There is a fundamental problem here. Because the writing is so it's very clear where you're going with so much of this, but B, you're writing in a way to basically work this to meld this story the way you want it, and you have to basically like do these weird creative like jumps that make no sense, and then you have to make characters make stupid decisions. Tell you what, let's go episode by episode with this, because I feel it really is important. And I got to remember exactly where each episode kind of started and ended, because it's already kind of starting to blur in my head. The first episode is the first episode we get at Carrie Ann Moss. Right out the gate was not a bad episode. Honestly, the first episode is arguably one of the better episodes of this. Not even arguably, it is one of the better episodes of the series. And we get the introduction of this girl trying to take down these Jedi. Her rage, her revenge. You find out there's the twins, Basil twins. But as my dad's been joking, but yeah, the twins, Basil twins. And we're like, okay, there we got this story with this. We got the Acolyte trying to take down a Jedi. And someone who knows lore, as someone who knows lore, I should say, I knew what this was about. You have to defeat a Jedi without using a weapon, and that basically, and then you bleed the crystal. That's what you see in the final episode: is killing a Jedi without a weapon, with the Force, basically, and bleeding a crystal is how you basically get a red lightsaber and you basically get accepted by your master. So, okay, fine. We got these twins. They're going to be at least semi-important, whatever. I honestly did not see too many flaws in the first episode. Then the second episode came. Osha and May are becoming more prevalent. All right, fine. And right out the gate, I could already tell you some of the things I was liking and some of the things I wasn't liking. I was loving the character of Soul. So he's like the only legitimately good character in the show. Legitimately good. I was, at this point in episode 2, okay with May and Osha. The girl playing them both was doing fine. In fact, except for a few things in episode 7, I will give kudos to the entirety of the cast. They did the best they could with the script they had and direction they were given. So kudos to that as well. And immediately we also saw that the action sequences were going to be really good. Especially when it's just straight hand-to-hand. When Soul just... like, he doesn't even draw his saber, man. Like, dude's badass. Carrie Ann Moss was cool to see as a Jedi also. Then episode 3 happened. And we get backstory. These girls were raised by witches. By the way, the actresses playing the young girls, when I did say most of the acting was good, no, the girls were honestly quite bad. And it was here that a big problem came about with the characterization. And this comes back even further when we go into episode 7, which is the From a Different Point of View episode. So we have Osha and May and these Night Sister witches. Now they allude to how they created the girls, and we're like, oh god, we're really going with this. They somehow created life. Like, Okay, they created life. Okay, whatever. That's what these girls are. It's like now, to be fair, to fast forward a little bit, when Soul says you're not twins, you're not even sisters, you're the same person. How? Like, I get that the Whitnight sisters created life. I get that. But how are they not? How are they the same person? Like, I get it that that's kind of where they were going with this, but they didn't go in depth on how that actually played out. My thought process would be if you created life and like split the life, well, that's how twins are fucking made. That is literally how twins work. Like, there's one embryo and the embryo splits, and that's how twins work. So it's like, Soul, your explanation's bull, but whatever. So we get them. We get the fact that Night Sisters don't like the Jedi and all that. And, we find out this fire happens. And then May comes and says, no, you're not going there. I'll kill you so you don't ever leave. And she sets the fire. I will get back to that in episode 7 because this really pisses me off. But Soul comes in, saves her, and, we go cut back to the present. Then we get into the next episode where they're gonna go fight the Wookiee Jedi Kelnaka. Okay, the Wookiee Jedi. And May and the little Manny guy are just like, hey, no, he'll kill you. Don't do this. And it's like, I'm gonna turn myself into the Jedi and all that. No, you're not. So she goes and finds the Wookiee Jedi Kelnaka dead, clearly killed by Manny. Now, we get that fight later on with him, and that is cool. Okay, we did get a Wookiee Jedi fighting, which is cool. Don't cock tease your audience. Seriously. The whole idea was they were trying to go with, like, murder mystery. Like, oh my god, he's already dead. But this is Star Wars. If you're going to do something like that, even with the Jedi, you still got to give some payoff. Now, luckily, that payoff did happen in episode 5 with a really cool fight. And us getting the reveal that Manny was the Sith Lord. The only other guy wearing black working with the girl was shockingly the Sith Lord. Oh my god, how did we not find that out? This is the next problem I have with the writing. You made everything bare bones clear. Like, it was, except for the stuff you just didn't flat out say, everything that you hinted at wasn't hinted. It was more or less flat out said without saying a damn word. You made it completely obvious. So that pissed me off. And then you go back on that goddamn writing, with the writing with May. It's like, I'm going to go turn myself into the Jedi. Please surrender. No! Like, what? You've made nothing consistent about this character. All you've done is the only consistency is she's psychotic and volatile. So that's, and then obviously you do that damn switching. Like, as he never could block, and she just gives herself the exact same haircut as her sister with a lightsaber, and there's no singe or smoke on there whatsoever. Like, that is the dumbest thing ever. Seriously, our suspension of disbelief can only be held so high. Then you get episode 6. Episode 6 is arguably, I think, the best episode of the series, because you now are getting Manny actually legitimately acting. And I think that's the actor's name. I can't remember. Oh, Chimera. They're getting Chimera. And here's the thing. Me and my dad hated that character before he was revealed to be a Sith. As the Sith, apart from Soul, he's hands down the best actor and performer in the series. Like, he's the best character otherwise. He's very... What I do appreciate about him is that we are seeing the dark side from a more compassionate perspective, weirdly enough, with him. Like, yes, he is like, I'm what you... I don't have a name, but you would call me Sith. Which, by the by, let's be flat out honest, because of that reveal in the final episode, let's just talk about Plagueis showing up real quick there for those of us who know who Plagueis was. It was cool. We saw Plagueis on screen. Awesome. Don't set up for a sequel when you don't... That's recipe for failure. You're trying to set up for a sequel when you don't even know how well your show's going to do. You had a lot of confidence. Guess what? That confidence got kicked in the nads. While it was great to see Plagueis just appear on screen, it was a pointless cameo. It's the setup for the future when you're not even sure what your future's going to be. That Veneris or whatever, the green woman, I can't remember what her name was. It was so obvious based on the scars on his back that she was his former pupil. Sorry, he was her former pupil. And that Yoda thing again. Look, it would have been cool if the show was well maintained. Not only is the show not well written, it is not well paced at all. Like you keep jumping back and forth from different things here or there, and it just is not coming together. So I mean, I appreciate episode 7 giving us the idea, his take on the dark side. You know, the fact that he is compassionate for Osha. I don't know if they're really implying anything romantic there, but they could have. Sith Master and Apprentice have had romantic relationships in the past. But Venestra, I think that's her name, Venestra. And I like the fact that she's got the the whip lightsaber. That's really cool. It's also very clear that she is not a good. As a Jedi, she's still probably thinks she's doing what's for the greater good. But as a person, she's probably not the best person because she clearly tortured and punished her student. So she's clearly not, and she frames Soul for what went down. Because it's clear she knows that's not what happened. So she's turned out to be a piece of shit individual. And then you go into, okay, all right, okay, we're here. Episode 7, the worst episode of this series by far. First off, Jedi metal detectors. Detecting a force of virgins in the Force. Hilarious. Besides that, I know what they're trying to do. The Rashomon thing, where it's like, okay, we're watching the entire thing of what happened, but from a different perspective. Everyone in the series and everyone kind of was like this, or like, okay, it was the Jedi's fault the whole time. He killed their mother. They burned, they forced to burn down the temple, or as they put it, if you hadn't come into our home, invaded our home, that wouldn't have happened. It was on you. They shouldn't have been on the planet. I think back to the Kermit the Frog thing, where it's like, what's amazing? Everything you said, it was wrong there. Not one single thing you said was right. Let's break this down, shall we? So the Jedi, as Jedi, have technically jurisdiction. Why can't I say jurisdiction? Why can't I say jurisdiction? There we go, jurisdiction. They have jurisdiction too. By the way, as far as I know, unless a planet actually has like a, not a barricade, but not quarantine here. That's not the right word. Perimeter's not the right word. They have like a border. Well, some planets has like some sort of atmospheric border. For example, what was it? The planet they're fighting over in Rogue One. That actually had like a legit shield around it. Scarif. But Scarif. Unless you have like some sort of like border or blockade or something like that. That blockade zero. You can go be on any planet you want. So the Night Witches are right at the gate, or I don't know if they're Night Sisters, but the Witches are immediately like, yeah, no, they can be on this planet. You have no claim on this planet. Anyone is allowed to be here. So right out the gate, the Witches are antagonistic to the Jedi. Now, granted, these Jedi clearly aren't the best Jedi in the world, but the Jedi, they're clearly antagonistic to the Jedi right out the gate. Second, they're clearly dark side users. So that's problematic. Third, now I will say this. In their defense, the Jedi did walk into their home. They did just stroll right in. In fact, they basically opened the door, forced the door open, and strolled right in. So fair is they did kind of walk into their home without permission. I grant them that. But who was the woman? Not only that, we in episode 7 actually see what she was doing to I can't remember his name. The Jedi Padawan. And we basically, so yeah, first off, she does the dark side matter. So already she would have established that you are willing to fight these Jedi when they haven't laid arms, they haven't bared arms, they haven't like done anything antagonistic apart from walking into your home, which is more or less just a dick move to do. Nothing antagonistic. Yes, maybe when you're Jedi, that represents a bigger threat, maybe. But as far as it goes, like so far, the Witches are the ones who are being antagonistic here. It's clear, too, they're using the dark side. Like, the Jedi aren't stupid in that regard. Basically. Also, Carrie-Anne Moss's character, not gonna lie, bit of a dick. Like, straight, they made her a bit of a dick. So, and so, you have that. Then they basically say, we have the right to test the children, although she even says they're going to be too old to train you. But they have the right to test the children. And, and we find out her mother was going to let them take Osha. We found that out. But the other witch is like, no, it's good girl, get mad. Like, what the f is your problem? One is like, no, we're good. And by the way, those noble intentions are going to be your downfall. How is that supposed to mean anything? Are you trying to imply Anakin? How is that noble intention because of taking children? I get what the line's supposed to try to insinuate, but that line did not work in that context. Especially if they were going to let her take Osha. And then you get that, I believe, is Zabrak. That's what she is. He's Darth Maul's race. Like, she's just fully aggressive. By the way, that line delivery is like, yeah, good girl, get mad. Like, what? That's terrible. That was a terrible delivery. But here's where everything May and all the May's anger comes from is bullshit. Is straight bullshit. The Night Mother, I guess we'll call her the Night Mother. The Night Mother, the Witch Sister, whatever, Witch Mother. She turns into the weird smoke thing, and he sees May turn into that too. He doesn't know what's happening. As far as he knows, she's taking her out and just wasting her away. So he reacts in the only way he can to save the girl and runs Mom through. I'm sorry, while he did kill her, and he has every right to feel bad about that because it was clearly a misunderstanding, what do you think was going to happen? You have made yourself completely antagonist to these Jedi. You have done nothing to earn their favor. They've done very little. They've honestly, besides walking into your house, have been nothing but cordial and respectful. Yes, we have the right to test children. That's what they said. They're the Jedi. They have the right to do that. Yes, the Jedi are dicks at this point. I'm not arguing they're not dicks. The Jedi are kind of dicks at this point, but they're within their rights, and they're being respectful in every other way. They did not start any fights. Walking into the house. If anyone's trying to argue, well, they walked into the home. Okay, did they do anything violent? Well, no, but did they draw their sabers? No. Did they threaten the witches? Well, no, but they wanted to test the kids. Yeah, because they could sense the power of the kids and wanted to be sure. That's within their right to do, because if there's a dark side threat out there, they have to be there to try to handle it. So they're in their right. I'm not saying they were 100% respectful. Again, walking into someone's home without permission, not 100% respectful. But they also didn't know there was people on this planet either. So the fact that you have already been antagonistic, literally blackout choked, I can't remember exactly what she did, but she was mind screwing with a Jedi in front of the rest of them, and then turns into this mother smoke bird monster to take her daughter. I'm sorry, Soul acted in the right. Now maybe he could have used the Force, or maybe he just kind of could have threatened her, but he acted on instinct on that moment. So Soul, while yes, he killed the mother, it was a misunderstanding, I personally don't think Soul was in the wrong on that. And then she's like, I was going to give you Osha. Then why the fuck did you act like this? But the part that pisses me off even more on the May side, and honestly, I detest the May character. Osha's fine. Although the actress is acting, she always has this face on her. Okay. But the May character I could not stand. Because she's just this angry little brat. That's all it is. She's this angry little brat. And you get the reveal that the fire that she started was accidental. It was an accident. Okay. So she didn't mean to burn down everything and kill everyone and kill her sister. Right? She didn't mean to do that. Except for the fact that you didn't retcon the scene where she says, I'm going to kill you so you don't ever leave. That scene still happened. There was nothing in episode 7 that retconned that scene, which means it doesn't matter if you started the fire by accident. What it does mean is you're a little psychopath who can't comprehend other people's own individuality because you're the same two people, just light and dark. Yeah, don't think we didn't notice that symbolism. That symbolism. And so he's like, oh no, Mama, you're dead. What do you expect? You're all terrible people except for Osha, who ultimately turns into a terrible person. Seriously, you all drove her to this. All of you. You were all the Jedi included. Because then you get to the end of that episode, and Saul's like, I'm going to do the right thing and turn myself into the Jedi Council, which is what May ultimately says that's what she was going to have him do to begin with. And then you get Carrie-Anne Moss saying, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to lie. And so, this is why Carrie-Anne Moss, as a character, I can't remember what a character's name is, I don't care. Like, bitch, what? No, let him do that. Screw it, give her a different master. She was going to flunk out anyway, so, and you probably know she was going to flunk out. So give her a different master, and just let her flunk out. And let him take that. And honestly, legit, if they had tried to explain it as clearly as it should have been explained, he probably would have been reprimanded, but he probably would have been fine. Like, seriously, the writing on this show. Oh, and by the way, see you in hell, Jedi. What? Are you trying to be badass with that line? That was not badass. You're someone trying to look tough and aren't. And then the final episode comes. Again, credit where credit's due. I love Soul. We knew he was going to die because the Sith have been extinct for this long amount of time. So, by the way, everyone who got on Ki-Mundi for saying that, he never once, I've seen the episode. He never said Sith in that episode. He said Jedi. He didn't say Sith. So, clearly, you guys are all just butthurt this show wasn't good, and we're trying to pick at things to be angry about. Which, to be fair, there's a lot to be. But the fight sequence with Manny or Chimere and Soul, that was badass. That was great. Especially when he throws the double sabers. He just okay. Badass. Badass. No questions about that. And admit you killed my mother. Is that our mother? And she's like, is that true? And Soul is just bearing his soul out at that point. And he's about to say, because I love you. Now, I hope he meant in a platonic mental way, not something creepy. I'm sure he does. But, yeah, and then it's like, which, by the way, I heard, this is one thing I will disagree with. I was watching Christian Harloff's channel. I like Christian Harloff from the Schmoes. And he had his regular crew on there, including Mike Kalinowski, who said, witnessing the first Force joke. I'm like, that is not the first fucking Force joke. Now, maybe he, like Chimere, because he mentioned the look Chimere was giving him. I think he was just more, what I think was happening here, he was just more marveling at Osha's strength more than anything else. That's what he was doing. It's not the first Force joke, though. Come on, it's not the first Force joke. But the fact that Osha is apparently so strong, now granted Soul was kind of resigning himself to his fate, but was so strong that she literally beat a Jedi Master on her own with the Force joke. No. And then there's no ramifications for either of these two after everything they've done. Like, I get it's supposed to be a villain story, but it is a terrible villain story because it's only up until this last part that you've really just had Osha go to the dark side. Now, it was cool to see a Kyber crystal bleed and turn into a red saber for the first time in a Star Wars property. That was cool. But the whole idea that Kyber's like, I'll erase her memories. I'll this is stupid. This isn't good writing. You're making, then that's why, she doesn't know anything about the Sith. By the by, Chimere isn't a Sith. Telling you right, I'm going to say it right now. Chimere is not a Sith. Maybe he identifies as such, But it's very clear, first off, that his master was Venestra. She's not a Sith. Although, if you talk about like pink lightsaber colors, because that is a color she has, they do say that the pink lightsaber does represent someone something to do with the dark side a little bit. But she's not a Sith. And we know in lore about, right now it should be Treabus and Plagueis. We do see, which means either Treabus is curling around somewhere, and Plagueis is the apprentice, or Plagueis is right now looking for his new apprentice. So, Manny Quimir is not a Sith. Because he even says, I don't have a name, but your kind might call me Sith. I actually think that line's important because he himself doesn't identify as a Sith. He's saying that you guys would probably think of me as a Sith, but he didn't actually call himself a Sith. So that tells me that he's kind of trying to become the Sith, and gain his apprentice and all that, because he's not, I think, the apprentice of Plagueis. So I don't see that. I think right now we're in the point in the history where Plagueis has probably killed his master and is now looking for his next student, where he'll find Sheev. But yeah, no, Quimir is not a Sith. He's attempting to become a Sith, but he himself, I don't believe, is a Sith. And if by the way, if the writers come out and say, oh no, he is a Sith, I'm not trusting a damn word they say, because they thought it was cool to have this little shit-smelling dog rat come around here, thinking he was cool. Focusing your story on these twins, when what you promised us was a story from the dark side perspective, and barely half your series was about that. And you seem to think we cared about these two twins. That was not what we were promised or what we were here for. So, now look, had you sold the show as murder mystery involving these two twins, honestly, include the twins in the description. And don't say it's from the dark side perspective. It's going to be told more from the Sith's point of view. Don't say that. Maybe imply we're going to maybe say, and leaning more into the lore of the dark side or something like, which they don't even do, but still it would have been a better tag than, oh, no, we're telling this from the dark side perspective. No, you're not. No, you're not. Don't lie to my face. That's, I think, the biggest fucking problem here, is that you're flat out lying to people's faces with this series. If you had basically sold the show on kind of what it is, it still would not have been good, but at least I would not be as pissed off about the misleading information. By the way, the creator also said that they wanted to kind of they were very happy to kind of throw their queer agenda in there, and people got pissed off by that. I'm like, well, okay, you shouldn't be throwing an agenda theoretically into anything, but everyone has kind of their own agenda, and all their stories tell their own, and there's their own politics or whatever. Fine. And she cited Frozen, which I found weird because there's nothing queer about Frozen from my perspective. Because, I mean, let me put it this way. If you're talking about Anna and Elsa, those are sisters. Trust me, there's plenty of Rule 34 out there that says otherwise, but those are sisters. So that doesn't work. Are you trying to say Anna's secretly queer? Like, well, no, I mean, if she is, they didn't imply anything about that. And she's got Kristoff. Are you trying to say Anna's queer because she's just, or like Ace or whatever, simply because she's not with anyone by the end of the second film? You can say that, but you're reading into things that have never been flat out said. Like, there's not really any hint that she is. And if she is, that's fine. But whatever. So, yeah, the creator of the show, from what I understand, has done a lot. Like, she worked on apparently Orphan Black, which is apparently a really good show, but I've never watched it. And I don't think she did any of the writing for this show. So, oh, I'm sorry. It was very much implied the two witches were a couple. That's your queerness right there. And guess what? Queer people exist in a galaxy far, far away too. And if you can't handle that a little bit of fact, and can't include other people from other groups, races, orientations or whatever in there, you need to back away and stop talking to other people, because you're a racist, sexist, or biased piece of trash. So I'm just going to be honest there. These people exist in our world, and therefore representation needs to matter for that. Everyone needs to be represented in this in our world. So overall, I did not like the Acolyte. I think it's the worst thing that Star Wars period as well. It's still not as bad as the Star Wars Holiday Special. I'll give you that. And I'd even say, go so far as to say, like, some of the Ewoks movies got really, like, weird. I'll say that. In fact, you know what? I'll do it. The end this right now. We're almost at 40 minutes. Let me just go real quick. It's obviously it's worse than episode 1. It's worse than episode 4 through 5, the original series. 4 through 6, sorry, the original series. Is it worse than any of the prequels? It's definitely worse than Revenge of the Sith, which is definitely the most competent one. And I'd say it's worse than Phantom Menace. Attack of the Menace. Attack of the revenge attack of the Phantom Clones. But I'd say Phantom Menace is better. Clone Wars. I think there's enough good way outweigh. Clone Wars is just boring is the problem. Or Attack of the Clones, sorry. Attack of the Clones is just boring. I would say, though, between, like, Count Dooku, seeing Yoda do his thing, the Geonosis fight, Ewan McGregor's still really good. Anakin isn't bad when he's not, when he's not being directed and, like, to do these, like, weird romance scenes. When he's not doing that, he's actually not bad, Hayden Christensen in that movie. And he's at his best, weirdly enough, in Ahsoka, but in Revenge of the Sith. So, yeah, no, I'd say it's worse than the prequels. I would say it's definitely worse than the first 2 sequels, Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi's got some bad stuff, but the good stuff in Last Jedi, I think, very much outweighs anything in this film. Rise of Skywalker, though. Oh. Ooh. This is probably on par with Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker is not good. It is such a hodgepodge put together mess of a film, Rise of Skywalker, when you really break it down. I mean, you get the Emperor back, and Ian McDiarmid's having a lot of fun, but they don't really explain much on it. I know about the cloning of the Emperors in, like, the novel, so that I could understand, but the regular fan, not so much, the average fan. I don't like the fact that they did kind of imply the Kylo Rey ship, but ultimately, no. I did like Kylo's redemption, though. If I were to say if I liked one over the other, I guess I would go a little bit more over Rise. Though the action in this film series is far better than in Rise of Skywalker. I don't know. They're probably relatively on par. Rogue One, better than this series. Solo, better than this series. Mandalorian, seasons 1 through 3, better than this series. Andor, better than this series. Ahsoka, better than this series. Obi-Wan, better than this series. Even Book of Boba Fett, honestly, better than this series. Because even though Book of Boba Fett was a mess, it was a mess for a very different reason. They tried to make it like about like a Godfather Boba Fett and all that, like, taking up being a crime boss. But they weren't focusing on that for literally 2 episodes out of the series. 2 episodes were just Mandalorian season 2.5, and those were good episodes. But, yeah, and then we get Vance coming back and all that. So, I believe it, Vance, the gunman. Oh God, why Justified guy? Why am I Timothy Olyphant? We got him back. We get to Cad Bane, the Rancor. There's cool stuff in Boba Fett, and I think it's enough that it does outweigh itself for me over the Acolyte. But Boba Fett's a mess too. So yeah, is this the worst thing they've done overall? Not quite, but it's near the bottom. Absolutely, it's near the bottom. I digress, though. What did you think after you finished the series, if you finished the series? Let me know in the comments below. While there was good stuff in this series, good concepts, great action, some good characters, it was just poorly executed. It was a wasted concept because it just wasn't the concept they were promising us. And it was not paced well, and they were just making too many bad decisions when it came to the characterization and the characters as a whole. So, yeah. Which sucks. You look at this poster I got, this thumbnail I got here. It's a damn good that's a good-looking thumbnail. But it just sucks. I don't know. What did you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, though. I got what if to do, and then I'm done for the day. And I'll see you guys next time.